You may know them for their wood glues, but did you know Titebond also has a complete selection of construction adhesives? Designed for a variety of applications, Titebond's adhesives make any building or home improvement project a breeze with their high-performing and durable formulas. These adhesives are trusted by the professional, providing squeak-free subfloor installations, long-lasting retaining walls, and even fastener-free feature walls. Check out Titebond's construction adhesives at titebond.com, including their newest award-winning adhesive, Tight Grab Plus. This comes from another Ian. Hey, podcast. Last year, my dad started sharing his old FHB magazines with me, and I got hooked on the podcast. I work for a design-build mechanical contractor in the commercial and industrial construction world, so I know very little about the residential side of construction. Getting into the podcast and reading Dr. Bale's book on building science has been super helpful with my home renovation. We bought an 1860s home in 2021 that was flipped, but not renovated well. We are going back now and doing all the non-cosmetic stuff that wasn't done right the first time around. The most recent find was when the new Hardie Board siding was added by the flipper. They added insulation to the walls, but the insulation doesn't extend all the way down the wall cavity. See the attached pictures. And they didn't air seal the wall at all. I found this while adding power for a gas fireplace insert. The wind blows right up into the wall cavity. I think this explains why I have popped screw heads on the exterior walls. I don't want to remove the siding and sheathing to fix this issue if possible. My plan is to remove the baseboard around the perimeter of the house and cut the gypsum wallboard 4 inches up all the way around. Then I can air seal the bottom of the wall with great stuff and add some fiberglass insulation without having to repaint or patch gypsum board, since the baseboard would cover up the cut when replaced. Is this a viable solution, or should I redo the whole exterior of the house? I've had to fix a couple of windows that were not flashed incorrectly, causing water to infiltrate the walls down to the first floor. So I know there are probably more issues with the envelope than I have seen. On the other hand, I've heard that taking off the Hardie board will cause it to break. Is that true, or can you reuse the siding and reinstall it? I don't know how well my wife will take the idea of stripping the siding, WRB, and sheathing off the house at this point. Thanks, Ian. Well, Ian, I can't argue with her. So Ian, if y'all saw these photos, Ian is understandably concerned about the work done by the previous owner. Should he rip all the siding off? Should he try to fix the insulation problems we see in the photos? Or should he do something else? Ian, what are your thoughts on this kind of sad situation?
I think if he could manage to take the Hardie board off in a way that it could be reinstalled, he's like a certified magician, maybe even a like warlock of some sort. That stuff is just going to fall apart. I think this is a great opportunity to get really good at taping non-tapered butt joints. And you're just going to cut your drywall out at whatever level you need to. And then I would get a froth pack or some larger scale DIY spray foam kit to air seal and spray foam and do a flash and bat install in the bottom of those walls.
Brian, your thoughts?
Well, I agree completely about removing the fiber cement. I've never had to remove fiber cement in mass, but I've installed fiber cement, and when you make a mistake and you want to try to fix a piece,
It's garbage.
You're not getting it off, and it would take maybe you could do it. It would take years.
Harry Potter style magic.
Yes.
That's what it's going to take.
I do get nervous that he says he's already found 2 leaky windows, because it makes me wonder how, when you're going to find that the rest of your windows are leaking as well, if they were flashed poorly. So that's a concern. And if they're all installed poorly and they're all leaking, then all of a sudden taking off the siding and redoing everything from the outside becomes maybe a smart decision. But otherwise, I agree with Ian, except that I think, I might do cut and cobble, like with some rigid foam at the bottom, just because I find it cleaner. And I find I do better work in those situations, cobbling in pieces of rigid foam with either a little bit of spray foam and caulk than I do with trying to fill things. Definitely that much work with canned spray foam I wouldn't want to do. And froth packs are, they're easy to use and can cover a lot of ground fast. But they're also, you need to be really careful about your safety with them. And if this is a space that they're living in, I don't know. If they weren't living in the space, it was gutted, they had all the protective gear that they needed, I'd be a little bit more in favor of the froth pack.
Yeah, they're messy.
They're messy. Yeah.
And you really have to do all that work at once. So I think it depends on your work style. If you're going to have to open this all up and do it all at once with the frost pack versus Brian's method, you could do it more incrementally.
You could do a little bit at a time.
I think you guys are both wrong. Frankly, I think this house needs a blower door test and some IR thermography because I'm real skeptical about what the house flipper did, and we already have problem windows. I wanted to see if this house is leaking and soaking everything before I put any more effort into it, honestly. So I think that would be a good start, is to have a blower door test, have someone there with a camera, because if it is leaking, the blower door is going to help those wet areas show up because it's going to be colder than the surrounding wall. So I don't know.
That was very John McLaughlin, like McLaughlin group of you, Patrick, to just look at Brian and I and go, wrong.
What do you guys think? I mean, like, what do you do with a house flipper house? How do you know it's not a train wreck before you start, making it potentially worse? Because at least it's drying. Ian said he can feel the air moving through it. So, if that stuff's getting wet, it's getting dry right now.
I think when you're talking about the windows, you got to hope that he's got some exterior trim on the windows that he could pull off easily and then reflash windows and, replace the trim.
But I have little confidence that the WRB above and surrounding the windows is, sufficiently water shedding to make flashing this worthwhile,
You're making a grand assumption that there is a WRB.
This is your house, Brian. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I lived in a house like this. It wasn't a house flipper house, but I lived in a house that needed all of this work.
Yeah.
And my decision was to just do all of the work.
You resided, you reflashed windows, right?
Reflashed. Yeah. I just did all the work because, maybe because I'm glutton for punishment. I don't know. I don't have anything better to do on my nights and weekends, but that was my decision with that house. But it comes, there's so many parts of the decision. I mean, I didn't have new fiber cement siding. I had old siding that within, the next couple of decades was going to be replaced anyway. I had windows that needed to be replaced. So it made the decision easier.
Yeah, you had something that was more like Greg, who wrote into the last podcast, who lives in Madison, and I stopped by his house this week when I had some time and walked that house with Greg, and he asked me for what advice I had for him, and my advice to him was get it set in your mind now what is going to be good enough and what is work that you want to take to your professional level of completion. Because if you try and take everything to that professional level of completion, on a project like this, you're going to end up doing way more work than you probably should on that home.
It's hard to know. This, I'm guessing, is a pretty big house. But if it wasn't, I would be tempted to tear it all apart. But
priorities too, right? I mean, if windows are leaking, fix that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about air infiltration yet. Like, right. If windows are leaking, rain is like infiltrating your walls when there are storms. Like, fix that first. Like,
water and stupid tradespeople. The home's two enemies.
I got to believe that there is a whole mess of houses of similar build quality with very suspect control layers, related to... Or none, with the building boom that happened during the pandemic and, in recent years. Ian, I hope you'll keep us posted what happens, man. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Be careful what you buy.
Yeah. I mean, how do you know, Ian? Some people,
really
like
hard.
myself included, just want a house. And there's very few things you can afford. So, how do you know you're not buying a complete turkey?
Well, I have one thought on that. on how you know is go beyond the cursory inspection that you need to get your mortgage and make the deal happen, because in many states those inspections are flawed by design. So see if the seller is amicable to an inspection where you go over with a builder. Hire a builder for a day, or an energy auditor, someone who knows houses to do an inspection that irrespective of the sale of the house and what you have to do. Get someone knowledgeable in there to look at it. That could be money well spent if they identify some issues that, or at a minimum, even if you love the house, it's in the right area, you want it, at a minimum, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of, I think it's a Warren Buffett line of when the world is greedy, we're fearful, and when the world is fearful, we're greedy. So when you're looking at a home in a hot market and you're getting a lot of pressure from a real estate agent or from the seller to buy the house, maybe that's a good time to take a step back and not pull the trigger on something.
Do you guys think it's okay to bring a blower door to the showing? Can you just like set that up without asking anyone and just start testing the house?
It should be.
I think Brian suggested to bring a home performance person to your inspection, and there's no reason not to.
Yeah, if you're paying for it, it's just, yeah.
You don't need to go around with the smoke stick and test everything. Just see
Get a number.
Right.
Just get a number.
Yeah. And there's a lot that a knowledgeable person can tell you through observation that you might not get it from. I mean, there are laws there are regulations in certain states where the inspectors that do these kinds of things for house sales, they can't move things. They're not allowed to lift up some insulation in the attic to see what's going on underneath it. That's crazy.
Flawed by design.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Patrick, this could be like your third or fourth career act. You could be like the blower door home inspector guy.
Ian, it would give me great joy to show up at a house showing and just start setting up a blower door without asking anyone. That would be hilarious.
You would just be like, what? I need to know the house's number.
That would be like, doesn't everyone do this? That's what I would say with a deadpan delivery.